Hello, everybody, and welcome to the panel on clearing out the attic. I have to look at the title again, the tools and approaches of self-organization while working from home. And I'm very happy. Oh, I have to turn off my second screen here. So I'm very happy to be here with you, all of you, for a panel which was originally intended as roundtable discussion. So it's really meant to involve the audience very much. So because we are very curious how your perspectives on like what tools and mindsets and processes you tested out in the last month and it worked in general for you and what didn't work for you. So my name is Tobias Kopka. I'm festival director at Ludisches Game Festival. And with me there is Lena Falkenhagen. She's freelance novelist and narrative designer. She'll introduce herself in a second. Christian Haya from Baltic West Dave and Seal Games, and Rebecca Lautner from Landfall Games. And so we have a German round of people thinking about organization. And usually I'm very international, but this time I really like that. So welcome, everybody. Please introduce yourselves. So starting with Lena.
Thank you, Tobias. Thank you for inviting me. It's kind of funny that I'm in a situation to talk about cluttering out the attic because I'm not really good at cluttering out the attic myself at home. But anyway, I started out as a RPG designer, TTRPG, tabletops, for 17 years on Das Schwarze Auge. Enjoyed that highly, moved on to writing like a professional novel writing. I've written 4 fantasy novels, 1 science fiction novel, and 4 historical fiction novels. And then I moved on again, and I moved to games and wrote the story and narrative and background, world building, etc. on Drakensang Online for, I don't remember, 5 or 6 years. And together with an awesome team, of course. And now I'm doing all of the above, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and also some teaching at the University of Applied Sciences, Hamburg, in the game design and narrative department. That's me.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us. So handing over the mic to Rebecca.
All right. Hey, hello, everybody, and thank you for having me, Tobias. So I started out in this industry as head of Berlin Baltic Nordic, which is an initiative that was funded by the EU and the Senate Department of Berlin. And the goal was to build up a network of pretty much everyone that is part of the industry, like publishers, investors, service providers, and connect them across borders. And now I am the CBO of Landfall Games, which is an indie developer based in Stockholm. And we did games like Cluster Truck, Stick Fight, Tab G, and currently working on the full release of Tabs. And I'm responsible for partnerships, brand building, and biz dev, and usually supposed to run around the globe. So this is a really good topic for me.
Wonderful. That's great to hear. Then I'm happy that we have you aboard. Thank you. And now, Christian, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tobias. I'm sort of a little bit like Rebecca, but with a different start into this industry, because I originally became a paramedic. Then I studied dentistry, discontinued that one, thought, okay, let's make something that is more fun. And I joined the games industry. First was PR trainee, communication, and finally business development. I'm still with Seal Games. Our company was founded in 2005, and we're still independent. I'm super happy about that. And with time, we transitioned from platform to platform, and nowadays it's mobile focus. I'm also mostly traveling the globe, and we're also organizing the Baltic Dev Days, which is it's a really nice video game development conference. 2 days of content where we try to bring in people from, let's say, mainly Europe and focusing on the Baltic region. Or Baltic Sea region, because it's more like the Baltics.
So everything around the Baltic Sea, connecting the countries and people.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, thank you also joining us. So Yeah, and again, my name is Tobias Kopka. So Ludicious is like a festival for game developers in Switzerland leading, and then Reboot Develop is like usually when Corona allows it happening in Dubrovnik, Croatia, and also since last year, first time in Canada, Banff in the Rocky Mountains, inviting the whole games industry from all different backgrounds. And aside of that, I grew up in a demo scene a long time ago in the early 90s, and I'm still working on pro bono projects like bringing that scene into on UNESCO World Heritage, but that's another question. So there's some people on the chat already. That's wonderful. Hi, Anne. So the idea behind this panel was, or also a roundtable, was really like to discuss, now that we are 5 months into the pandemic, of course, apparently for some people, it's not the first time that we're working from home. Many of you, of us, have been working at least remotely for 5 years or for a longer time. So we have experience on that, but it's still a different thing. So, and maybe to start with that, so this idea when writing this text about clearing out the attic. So Lena, you mentioned that. In the end, I'm also not wonderfully great in clearing out the attic, because I thought, okay, Corona keeps me at home. There's no biz dev, there's no traveling, there's no nothing. So if I don't clear out the attic now, then when will you do it? And so this is like the question. So how did your ride go in the last months, and what would we like to share on these experiences? Which tools we use? How do we organize ourselves? How do we keep sane, etc.? So this is like one of the ideas. So to start somewhere. So how are you feeling on this? Where are we now? So if you look back into the last 5 months of remote work, what was like the biggest impact on your work, and that what you say? So what changed in a very general sense?
Mm-hmm. Should I start?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so I think at the moment, to jump ahead, at the moment we're actually in a phase of, I think, online fatigue again, at least for me, because at first, so for me at the university and in my home life and in a I'm also heading a writers association in Germany. In that association, all the work basically tripled because of Corona. So I didn't have that time to clear out the attic at all, if I had one. And at first there was a frantic struggle to cameras, to new microphones. I have both actually, like a new camera and a new microphone. And I think we found out, especially in the book industry, but also in I think every industry, how much is doable via video conferencing tools and via online organization. And I've heard of companies who would have never thought about letting their employees go into a home office at all, because they felt people unproductive and they're not doing their work in the home office. And suddenly they didn't have a chance, and they found out, oh my God, it works. And then there was this frantic boom of video conferencing tools, one after the other. And I quickly discovered that after teaching 4.5 hours online into a black box, basically, because students don't have the greatest bandwidth, and they basically shut down the camera, which is quite cool, because then they can hear me at least. I'm not good for anything the rest of the day. It's really stressful. It's really drawing the power out, and it's taking a toll on your mental health. And I think that's where I'm at now. I'm quite happy that the semester is over, and that I can let go of the many video conferencings that I had. And hopefully this will kind of balance itself in the middle, because this was out of balance to me.
It's very good point, because when we were preparing this panel, I think that came very quickly up, that talking about the tools doesn't really make sense without talking about how we as humans are functioning at home with these tools. Or of course, some of us can go to the offices again, but it's a big difference. How do you feel about this in general, like Rebecca?
I mean, so for me, I first of all had to get a setup for home. I didn't even have like a fixed working space. So I usually, the office of Landfall is in Stockholm and I'm based in Berlin. So I was actually supposed to be most of the time spending in Stockholm, either in the office or traveling around. So I never really had to take care of that. And the first couple of weeks I worked from 14-inch laptop, which really didn't work. So I got a setup and now it's in my living room. It makes it kind of, it's out of balance that you're working in your living room and you don't really have a space to relax in. But I think, I adjusted to this. And for me, the hardest thing is that I'm a very social person and I like going to conferences and meeting the people, and just doing some networking and actually doing the after hour where you get to know the people on a personal level, which makes it so much easier to work with them afterwards sometimes. And I really miss that. But what I loved about the situation is that we really fast found solutions on, how to bridge that gap. So a bunch of people and friends from the industry that I would usually meet at conferences, we built a Discord channel, or we now have a Slack channel that is only for the biz devs, from that part. And there's like different channels for various topics. And some of them are just like hanging out at the water cooler and you just don't talk about business, but, friendly stuff. And I think that's really important to me, that I still have the business level, but I'm still getting the chance and found other tools of meeting my friends from the industry in a private session,
And yeah, so there were already lots of talking points in that. So like in terms of the server you created, or or let's just take there for a second. So the Discord, I think, was actually started by you. And can you tell us a little bit about how you built like kind of a community around you?
Yeah, so it was started not only by me. It was the idea of a bunch of people that we would usually meet at conferences. And it was Petter Henriksson, also from Landfall Games, and then Johan Todesen from Raw Fury and Callum Underwood. It's all people you like hanging out with them, and we kind of miss talking to each other. And then we started this channel, and now we try to keep it on the low side, so it's not too many people. Sure. But it works really well, because also one thing, that there's and thank you to Pavel Budaj at this place, because he managed to put up a list of online conferences that are happening this year, and this list is insane.
I want to see it.
Oh, I will definitely provide you with it. It has been finding his way around the industry already now. But this was posted in this group. And that's just, supporting each other on keeping up to date of what's happening. And I think that's what these channels are for.
Important point you said, like also like to have a group of people around you, like in a circle of trust. I think trust is a very important thing in terms of online communications. We come back to that later, but let me bring in also Christian. So how has your road been? Because so far I think Lena, Rebecca, and me are mostly working on our own. You are more working in a studio context, and so how has the general road been for you in terms of ups and downs?
So on the work side, pretty much as Rebecca already stated, it was like a black hole is opening up and whoosh, there goes your work. Because usually my focus is on platforms and partnerships and identifying business opportunities. I'm not selling games. I'm more focusing on bringing things into the company that help us grow the business. So all that whoosh, gone. And you can't imagine how much work it usually is to prepare for conferences, talk to people, and then, of course, getting back to the people after conferences. Plus, the same thing also for the Baltic Dev Days conference that this year we canceled it. So that gives me a little bit more time. Luckily, I'm in a position or in a company where we talked about, okay, what other things can you do now? And I'm now helping with the narrative aspects of our new game that we're working on. And on the other side, in January, I became father again. So I've got a little baby girl here. and she's taking a lot of my
Congrats.
attention. And it's like every time, no matter what you do, it's a smile. So that perfectly balances out that black hole that I sort of dropped into. Yeah.
So like the black hole between work and life, like to the balance, or
No. So I'm someone who always try to find work that actually is fun to me or is meaningful to me. So the business development aspect, I don't really consider it. But it is a huge load, a huge amount of work, definitely. But it does not put that stress on me to not constantly, used to travel one to two times per month. That's also quite a lot, but all that is away. It's gone right now. Yeah, I mean, I'm super happy that Rebecca and Peter and the others they organized that lovely Discord channel, because now you have sometimes meetings in games, or you talk just to people and you play a round of Modern Warfare. And it's like it's epic.
I think it's a very important. So in terms of who I mean, yeah, there's different types of people, of course, and I'm also falling into the group of people. So I'm not only the moderator. So it's again, it's intended like as a roundtable here. So we're talking on that everybody shares their perspectives. And for me, it was also surprising to see how much I learned. That I mean, I knew I can go on events for a long time, but I didn't realize that it's really, I get the energy from people, and this keeps me going and going and going.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And I underestimated that very much. And so from my perspective, maybe to answer on that, so for us, it was really, okay, I was first had start diving into as many conferences, watching as many online events, demo scene, 70 hours events, etc., to see how that stuff works, and then dive into Head Start, like running a conference and learning as much as possible there. That was also okay, but what I completely underestimated is like the black hole afterwards. Usually you are used to that as organizer. I think everybody knows that if you're coming enlightened from a conference back and you have that energy from meeting, encouraging people, and then the big drop. But with online conferences, it's even higher, because you're just switching off and then you're there and everybody's gone immediately. There's no transition phase. And that's something what I underestimated. And that's why it's even as we're finding the tools and the tweaks, I think it's more important also to talk about the mental health or at least the emotional challenges on that side. And I will share the virtual conferences list at the end of the conferences, because I don't know how I can write on the chat as moderator myself.
Yeah.
We see. Otherwise, we would have written already, but maybe I can pass it over actually to the team. Maybe it works. Otherwise, it's on our closing slides as well at the end of the session. Because there's like, if you just look at October, there's like, now it works. That went quickly. Now we have many shared. Okay, thank you for sharing. So in general, so this means also how your work field works has changed tremendously. I mean, Rebecca and Christian, you were in BizDev, and Lena, how did it change for you in that sense? So it's
yeah. Not at all, actually. I was so much looking forward to having colleagues at the university. So I'm parental leave stand-in for Eric Janot at the university. So I came in January. I never met my students live, and I'm leaving in September. That's quite hard for me. But I was so much looking forward to having actual colleagues, being able to talk to them at the coffee machine and meeting my students live in the teaching rooms and talk about narrative and walking simulators and game design. And like I said, I never met them. And I just, I was there for I think 2 months, and then Corona came, and then I said, okay, it's home office again, because this is my usual life. So your quarantine is my usual business life. I'm sitting at home behind my computer, talking to people on the phone or on the video conferencing tool. And I have to organize myself with tools, so I'm always looking for new ideas to do that. And I've tried many and discarded a lot. And usually you come back to the things that just feel right for you. But at the university, I found that the bigger the team, the more professional and versatile and structured a communication tool needs to be. So I am a huge fan of Slack, for example. I hate Teams with a passion, with a vengeance, because Teams is so cluttered. It's so like the matrix between channels on the one hand, and then you have folders where you can basically hide away files and other stuff. It's driving me crazy. And Slack is just it's clear. You have like very dedicated channels. You can mark people. You can attach files. You can even, like, nowadays they've upgraded their video conferencing tools too. So if you have the pro version, you can use that. It is quite good, actually. So I've tried so many video conferencing tools, and discarded most of them, despite Zoom. To be quite honest, we can talk about data security later. Gladly.
Yeah, in a second, for sure.
But unfortunately, Zoom is the best one that's still out there. So for me, this is quite old. But I've heard from many of my students that they have problems motivating themselves from home without a company and camaraderie, and that's quite hard on them.
How do you? I mean, maybe comments on this. I think you put. I mean, yeah. At Ludicious, we're working with Discord, but I comment on that in a second. But Christian, you have maybe a comment?
Oh well, we made the move from Slack to Teams, and most the main reason was that they had a limit on the people that can actually join the video call, and Slack was a bit slow to adapt to that, and. The interesting thing about Teams is, I mean, most companies usually have those enterprise subscriptions, and these subscriptions automatically come with Teams, sort of an unlimited version. So the big pro here was that we didn't have to pay anything at all in addition to that solution. And besides that, setting up Teams was challenging, but something that we did is, for example, we don't clutter everything inside Teams. We link it outside to Jira, for example. So we try to keep it as tidy as possible. And besides that, it just works. The only thing that I think does not work right now is the connection to Google Calendar, but I think they're working on that.
Yeah, I mean, we're also using Slack, but for the team calls, we're using Discord because it works the best.
Yeah. And that's pretty simple, but it has huge implications. I mean, when we switched with, so 2 years ago, we started with Discord at Ludicious, and I have a tendency to move to Slack as well, mostly because of threaded conversations. And it's just that one thing. It's just this thing that, of course, Discord is meant like an ongoing stream in the channels, and that's fine. It makes total sense for community and live communications. But if you have oftentimes complex, you can't open so many channels to have all the conversations on thread in a sense, because if you want to go crazy on that, and I think Slack helps with that way better in a sense. But I think on the communication side, I think it's kind of a given then, like it's a mix of Teams, Discord, Slack. So Rebecca, you use Discord for community reasons mostly, or do you decide on, okay, it's mostly wherever someone is, I am as well. So it's also a question of how many channels do you open? How do you feel about that, all of you?
Us, it's just for the team with Landfall, we have Slack for everything like the day-to-day communication that we're just sending each other. And we have a channel that's called Random, where we send each other pictures from the office or a house, and we have a channel that's called Office Doggo because, it's fun and people send pictures of their dogs. So that's what we use that for, and especially the updates on tabs and what we're working on, But when it comes to actually having a call with everyone, then we switch to Discord. And I can't really tell you why that is, but we just figured that it worked better for us. And not between Slack and Discord, but more between Zoom. Because then, it's all about the video. And it's just I can't really tell you why, but it's just more convenient for everyone.
Mm-hmm. So like if all of you think about your standard tools of work, it's like, what is your 5 standard tools you use every day in a sense? What's like the core of your work?
I'm really interested to hear from the others because I don't have that many tools that I'm using, kind of have my own system. But the only thing that makes really sense for me is Trello, because I'm usually, I'm based in Berlin and the team is based in Stockholm, and there's a lot of tasks that overlap with one of my colleagues. And we just, switch it back and forth. So we have our own Trello chart, and then it's like my task and his task, and then what we both have to do, and then we comment on it. So it's a lot easier, to get the to-do section updated and clean. Doesn't always work as well, but we're still trying to figure it out. And so maybe there is some other tool that I just don't know about that would work better even.
Yeah. Wilnev, by the way, on the chat, we are looking at the chat. Yes.
Just wanted to say, yes, yeah. There are some people in the chat. You might want to look at Kanban Flow, Becca. Kanban Flow is actually, I think so. I'm usually, when I'm organizing teams, I'm often organizing people who are like Ehrenamt. What's lacking the word?
Pro bono.
So non-profit,
yeah.
Non-profit stuff too, and for the non-profit stuff, that are usually people that are not so technically adept. And I'm usually going to Trello with those people because Trello is very user-friendly. It's easy to manage. You just have to register. And in the end, people don't even use it so much anyway. So you have to have one dedicated project manager technically to manage, to deal with that and to keep it on track. Because people tend to ignore it, I think. The usual project management problem, I think. I think that Jira might actually be good for that, but that's, I think, often too complicated in a non-professional environment. And I'm using Slack, as I said. I'm also using Discord. I don't know why Discord feels cluttery to me too. I feel that maybe it's about colors and about the easiness of structure and the threads, of course, the threading function. Slack is just very clear and very... I have a feeling of control over stuff in Slack. I don't have that feeling in Discord. So for me, it would be Zoom, actually, Slack. It's Google Docs, unfortunately, because it is the one and only tool that is so easy to manage with a certain amount of people. And it can develop its very own dynamic if you work on a Google Doc with other people and you see them working on it. It's so motivating to see that, yes. to see it grow,
As a social person, I agree 100%. Yeah. With many texts, actually, I prefer as well to work together.
It's very organic and very motivating. And the fourth one is Miro. I love Miro. So as a whiteboard function, as a visualization tool, it is so powerful. I use it for basically everything, including my RPG, my private RPG sessions. And the fifth one is Analog. It's a bullet journal. I do bullet journal.
Ah, interesting. That's for personal usage, like to think about, to organize your day or your priorities or reflect on your day. It's like,
no,
so what's the thinking behind a bullet journal? Maybe you can.
The bullet journal is basically a powered up to-do list. So you can Google it. There's a bullet journal website, and you have a book, and you can introduce your own structure about calendars. You have a yearly, a weekly, a monthly organizer that you can put in yourself, and a daily if you want to. And I have usually a yearly to have my dates and meetings and conferences and the likes. I have a monthly where I fill in all the tasks that I need to do and collect them, and then I distribute them into either a weekly or a daily journal, basically. So it's a giant to-do list where you move tasks between these different layers. And sometimes I use it more, and sometimes I don't even use it for months, just depending on the tasks at hand. And it works for me because you take stuff out of the digital and into the haptic analog room space. That's quite working for me.
Okay, so this was a suite of different tools, like on collaboration, on self-organization, on personal organization, and then of course like on collaboration in terms of Google Docs, etc. How is it, Christian? How is it on your side?
I try to keep things simple as simple as possible. For organization of Baltic Dev Days, it's a Google sheet where I have one master sheet with all the people that are sort of have something to do with the Baltic Dev Days, ranging from speakers to sponsors, etc. And then just depending on the marker, it just copies the person to another sheet so that one of my colleagues can work with whatever he or she does. For example,
press contacts.
Yeah, exactly. So besides that, I'm sort of highly organized, and all I need is like be it an Outlook calendar or the iCalendar. The only thing that is impossible is that it syncs across all the devices that I'm using. Else I would go mad or nuts, maybe. Yeah, that's the thing that I use personally. Also, when it comes to to-do lists, I try to have as less as tasks as possible. So I don't want to be in a situation where I have like 10, 20 tasks, something open on a to-do list, where I have to work it down to let it be 1 to 5 tasks. I can handle that easily in a calendar or even on a blank sheet of paper. That works. On the other side, when we're talking about team management, someone, I think you mentioned it already, Tobias, Jira. That's what we are using. And it's connected to Teams. So no matter if someone updates a status on a task, it automatically gets pushed to Teams. So we all know the status of the separate tasks. Yeah. And we use it in a wild mix of Scrum and Kanban, something that perfectly works for our company. Took some time until we figured out how.
And that was probably iterated over years, I guess, or months at least.
Yeah.
And not connected to Corona, I guess.
No. So one learning maybe that we took, but I think we're tapping into another field, is that in 2015 we had a very bad year for our company, and we had to let some people go. And even I made something like a sabbatical, founded my own game development studio, won at a business competition plan, business plan competition. Yeah, that's it. And so afterwards, I got back to the company, and in this phase, we ensured that no matter what happens, that we have sort of a security net, mainly also when it comes to financial things, but also that no matter what happens, you never know if some of your employees gets into a car accident, and maybe it's your, I don't know, backend developer who used to bring everything to run. And so we have put a lot of effort into ensuring that we document everything. So it's sort of like the German style, maybe, I don't know. So we document a lot. We try to be as transparent as possible, no matter what it's about, be it the projects or the financial aspects of our business, and everyone is on track. Yeah.
I was just answering like also one of the questions on chat, so we can type the tools here and also have some of them on our last slide. But it's a very important part. So, and Rebecca, you were wondering what? Okay, I didn't talk by myself. For me, it's
Me
very
too.
simple. For me, it's very simple. Actually, over the years, it was less and less tools. So it was kind of. But on the other hand, there's always like tiny tools which help you a lot. So, for example, I used to use big communication CRMs like Salesforce and stuff, or like bigger ones. And nowadays, I really step back and use very simple one. It's called Contacts Plus. It's on the App Store. It's if you and it's a very simple CRM where you simply have your contacts, which synchronize all over your devices as well, and you can tag your contacts like in a normal context, but it's very swift and fast forward if you want to export people from that mini CRM, I would call it, because in my reality, I realized in 90% of the cases, I don't have the tools available when I need actually my contacts. So let's say I'm going to, let's say, Stockholm. Who do I know in Sweden, or who at least, or not only Stockholm, but at least Sweden, and then I can check through. But if the people are tagged at least for a country, then it's very hard to go to remember, because we as humans have the problem, we need an index. We need usually something to browse through, which reminds us to think about people or other things. So it's like really like a visual index of who you know. So oftentimes, you probably know that as well, Christian, if there's a conference coming up and someone is asking me who is speaking, I have to look at the list again, because I've been talking to so many people. In the meantime, I need this visual cue, even though I've been working on it for half a year. And it's the same with the context. So who do I know in Sweden? Or someone is asking me, hey, do you know a Graphition? Or do you know a studio in free-to-play? All of these, and then I'm always blank, and I have 10,000 contacts.
But
and it's like,
question. But that means that you also put quite a lot effort into updating that list.
Yes, at least for the tagging.
With all the details, job position,
and there it's
countries, etc.
There, one of the mindsets comes into play, or one of the book recommendations.
Okay.
Of course, not all of the contacts are tagged yet, because I just discovered the book like a year ago. And one of the things of clearing out the attic for me was really, okay, I know all these people, but I can't access them. And oftentimes, if it's in this moment, because it's like this old question of, hey, can you recommend a restaurant in your city? And then, maybe.
The important things, you know.
So, and Slide Edge is really like about this mindset of doing just a tiny bit every day of something, but this incrementally builds up to huge effects. It's like this old networking habit of build the contacts before you use them. You need to use them, or you're looking for something. It's really this one step at a time attitude, in a sense. And Slide Edge is really the best book I've ever read. So if there's only one book I would read in life, this would be the one. Because I'm agnostic. So there's no Bible for me. But anyhow.
How comes that you do not use something like LinkedIn? Because LinkedIn is a platform where I would expect that everyone keeps it updated.
That's
I think
true.
It would offer all the filters that you need.
Yes, that works for, yes, but that's a second thing. Over the years as well, I learned not to trust platforms that much anymore, because they might change their, so let's say LinkedIn 5 years ago had an API, so you could synchronize the contacts to somewhere else. And you could use that email addresses, etc. But that's not possible. I mean, LinkedIn did a login. I mean, maybe it was also 8 years ago. I can't remember. But in the beginning, it wasn't like that. So you could pull data from LinkedIn. And and that way, I prefer to have something which is synchronizing to a Google Sheet. So Contacts Plus, if a contact comes in, it goes via the peer into a Google Doc. So that would be the second talk. Yes, Miro, Slack, Trello, Google Docs. So there were some other comments. Yes. So Zapier is like the contact, the tool I use to connect like data. But yeah, let's say a business card comes in, you can photograph that via Contacts Plus, you tag it, it goes into the Google Sheet, and in case whatever platform is not there anymore, I still have the contacts. Because I was wondering when like seasoned people like Jason DeLorca or so were also telling me, how do you organize your contacts? I still have an Excel sheet. It's like that.
Yeah.
So it's like over the years, it got less and less complex. And also at Reboot, we are working actually very hands-on, very down-to-earth on, here's a list, here's a document, we go it through line by line. This is our action items, and 90% is action. There's not much overhead.
So there is no magic tool. We all use Excel.
And true. And your comment is also right. Not everyone is on LinkedIn. Yeah. That's another problem. You have your people, some of them you only have on Twitter, and you don't even have emails. And that works in our phones. You can have people without emails. In our in Contacts Plus, you can have that. And that's a very important thing. So I think, yeah, we probably could. Yeah, sorry, I get.
No, that's a good argument.
I will look into organizer, it's so important. Like it. But for you as BizDevs as well, right?
No.
Sorry.
No, I was just saying I completely understand what you're saying, and I will definitely take a look into the tool that you are recommending, because it sounds quite interesting.
So it's really contacts and then with a plus, so ZOYs. It was the name before was. I think in the beginning it was CoBook, then it was Board, and the name was Full Contact, and from Full Contact it went to Contacts Plus. Anyhow,
Contacts
people
Plus,
who had
okay.
Yep. Rebecca, how's it for you?
Well, yeah, I mean, still Excel,
Simple.
but I'm kind of, when you used to go to like real conferences, and then you get a shit ton of
business
cards. Yeah. And what I used to do afterwards, and that's actually the thing, I went to either Facebook, and maybe I'm a fossil, but I'm still using Messenger as a main tool for getting in touch with people. So I look on Facebook if those people are actually accepting, friends from the industry, or if it's like a private thing. If they have a lot of mutual friends, that I just add them on Facebook, and then I have LinkedIn. And that's actually how I'm searching. But I'm lucky because I have a really good memory. So usually I know who I'm looking for, and then I just scroll through the list, or, and know how to find them. But for the rest, I'm actually still using an Excel sheet. Mm-hmm. And I really want to change that. I want to get that more organized, especially now, when you get emails from people that you haven't met before and you don't have a personal reference to them. It's just so much easier to have it on an official, system, and how to find them afterwards. So I'm definitely going to look into a Contact Plus. Mm-hmm. And if someone else has another suggestion, I'm totally happy to look at all of them.
I actually might have one that is comparatively fossil too. It's just like so my contacts list on my mobile phone is connected to a Nextcloud, and I'm keeping all the contacts in that Nextcloud. And so when I get a business card, I usually type the contact data into my phone, and it gets synchronized with my Nextcloud. And I do have all the contacts in there then. And sometimes I do doubles or triples because I try to get it done quick, and then I have 2 times Becca from Landfall, or 3 times because I have new updates. Because in this industry, I mean, oh my God, are people changing their affiliations quickly? I have been to conferences, collected so many business cards, and if you try to contact them 2 or 3 months later, they're not in the business anymore, but they have moved or have been let go or changed companies. I don't know. So that's an issue, but I think like really the contact. So my phone is everything to me now. It's a calendar. It synchronizes with my Thunderbird at home. My calendar. It's my contact list, and I even do use, now that we're talking about this, I even use what's it called, Google Notes. So sometimes I just type stuff quickly into my Google Notes. Notizen.
Yeah, in terms of notes, we can, of course. I mean, maybe we step a little bit back in that sense. So thank you for sharing that. So there was also a comment, Nutshell as CRM. So Context Plus, I'm not getting any money from them. They also enrich the data. That's the important part. I wouldn't have used it if they don't update for you the countries. And so only publicly available data will be updated if people move around, jobs, etc. But of course, the email address is like always the unique ID you need to keep there. If we step back a little bit, so if you, if you think about how you keep your focus, and like also like we talk about decluttering in that sense. So I mean, so you are all properly organized, that you have not too many tools in your to get not too cluttered. But do you use like principles like for personal rituals, or principles like GTD for getting things done, or is it something how you organize your tasks and priorities personally? So is there something you would recommend?
I think that's pretty tough in general because, working from home, then you first have to adjust to the new situation. And for me, there's so much work that I could do all the time that I sometimes at the beginning forgot to even take a break. And then you have you start to work at 9 in the morning, and then you have a bunch of calls, but then you have a call with the US and the time zone is totally different. So you take the call at 11 p.m. at night, and there's always something more to do. And I think that was really important for me to learn how to find my balance. That I have a routine in the morning, how I start my working day. And then I take a break in the meantime, and that has to be a lunch, and then I talk to the team and structure the rest of the day, and not taking calls just all over the place. But that's more, I don't know if that's a system, but that's just something I had to learn for myself, because it's, crunching is a thing that you usually do in an office. But now I realize that I've just been constantly doing it to myself. And Landfall is a place where we really keep track, of work-life balance. And that's really important for us. So I think that's, important for everyone to figure that out for themselves. But
I think personal, do you have personal rituals or something? I 100% agree, because I think, especially the people who usually get energy from other people, the risk is that you, even if it's work, you still get a reward, right? If you send something, if you take the call, and there's a risk that we do actually the damage to ourselves. And I at least am guilty of that, especially in tunnel vision, organizing the conference. Can totally relate. I have some rituals for that, but how's it for you, Christian?
Well, I already used to maintain a daily routine, getting up early, having breakfast, working. The thing that I discovered for me within this past 5 months is that there is no I do not must do things. I can take a break whenever I want to take a break, except for I'm like in a tunnel, in a flow where I'm working on something and I need to have this focus. So I have gained more acceptance towards being a little bit more easy with things. And you see, it does not hurt. That's maybe one thing, but still maintain a clear structure. That's of course, but also be gentle to yourself and take the breaks. For me, I'm in this very blessed situation that I have a small kid running around. That also makes it quite difficult to work. Yes, but on the contrary, you have someone constantly bumping you and saying, "Hey, Daddy, I want to play. Take a break. You've been working for 3 hours, something like that." So,
So avoiding burnout is, of course, a very, very important part, I think, of the new world of working from home, and especially, yeah. So, and it's good to have this external markers for myself. Rebecca, do you have a ritual?
I mean, yeah, I go, I get up in the morning and then I do some sports because I need that because I also, gain a lot of weight when you're just sitting at home in your living room. It's
Yeah.
It happens, right? But I'm working on it. So.
Yeah, absolutely true. Yeah, that's absolutely true. One thing that I started because at some point I moved to our office that was quite empty, so I took the bicycle instead of driving by car, and it's good for your health,
No, but I also think it's important is that you don't cram a lot of calls in one day and try to make them happen as fast as possible. But for lunchtime, I sometimes, when the lockdown, ended and you were allowed to socially distant meet, I immediately went out for lunch and met friends from the industry. Sometimes we still have the same topic, but it's because you like talking about your passion. It's something what connects us all. And then talk about something you like, but it's not exactly business. And it just gets you out of the apartment for at least a bit and then take a walk. But I haven't found, the perfect method for it, but I'm getting there.
100%. 100%. I mean, the time is running very quickly here. So, but it's true. We have a body, and that's a serious fact too. And again, that's also important with all the mindsets. So I started running actually. Really like I never did before. Have also now a pretty long non-alcoholic phase actually, because there's no conferences and events, so why not doing it now? That was also a good change for, I don't know, 100 days now. That's interesting how, of course, you have to really maintain your sanity and your energy and your clarity. Otherwise, as someone was writing, it doesn't help if you sit in front of the screen with all the great tools and your energy, your emotions are bonkers. I think it sounds like a standard, but it's really very important how we're doing this to ourselves.
And I think you also need more energy to do that, what we do via video online conferencing tools. I think that meetings don't take that much energy out of me than video meetings, actually, because I don't know why. It's just you try to project your presence, your energy. You need to watch everybody and maybe watch a chat or whatever. And it just takes more out of you, I think, than a normal meeting.
I think it has something to do that you're in a constant, in a different mood or state, sort of. I mean, when you're at a conference, you're permanently on the run, sort of, from meeting to meeting. So that's a different kind of energy. And here you're sitting at home, and then next call. I mean, we're not working in a call center, and so it sort of feels sometimes like that. And I worked some years ago in a call center. I know that feeling, and at some point you just burn out. It's try to keep the brakes.
I was smiling because I did that too in 2000.
Oh, we have something in common.
In 2000, yeah, 1999 actually. Sold the first million.de domain. So it was an internet provider. But so that's true. Like also like these. Sorry. That's keeping. I was just looking at the clock, but I think we have only 2 or 3 minutes left if we were starting on time. Yep, that works. 2 minutes. So if there's one thing you would like recommend to others, maybe we can also bring in the shared slide again. So if there's one thing you would recommend others like to optimize their energy levels from home and thinking about tools, what would be your one thing you would recommend?
Leave the house once in a while. No, make it a habit to leave your house on a regular basis. It's you have to find reasons for that if you're in a home office and you cannot go to sports or conferences. Have reasons to leave the house.
Cool, thank you, Rebecca.
Well, if it's supposed to be on a personal level or on a business level, because I think there's a lot of indies out there that would usually go to a conference, and try to get some visibility there, that don't have the chance necessarily. And for them, going to online conference is a completely new thing, and they don't know anyone. And if you go to a physical conference, it would be a lot easier to actually talk to people. But I would just, recommend just do it anyway, and even reach out to people that you haven't met before, and just join networking events and get visibility, and get connected to the rest of the industry. It's everyone's still listening.
No, very important to think you're not alone. And Christian.
Actually, I hesitate a little bit to recommend some practices to an indie, because I'm sitting in such a comfortable chair that makes it quite difficult. But I would second Rebecca with check out the list for I think Pavel Budaj is organizing that list right now with all the different events, because in absence of all those physical events, it's super important for indies to get in contact with publishers, with other indies, to exchange ideas and everything. I mean, it's like all that is missing right now, and it's so super important. And these serendipitous meetings, they are gone right now. So you try to have to work against that. That sounds a little bit harsh, maybe, but and it helps to attend those digital events. But be clear, be precise, set your goals. What do you want to achieve? At the end of the day, you don't want to have like 20, 25 meetings a day with people who want to sell you something. Set your own goals, and don't be mad with yourself when you reject one request after another one. It's just try to find out what's important for you and follow that path. Yeah.
And from my side, it would be another book. Very simple. That's also here on the list. So if you go back in the video, you can see there from David Allen, a standard one, Getting Things Done. And OmniFocus is like the tool to go for on the Mac. I can't talk about it because we ran out of time. But that's really like the standard thing to organize yourself and all of your projects in life. And really a daily rhythm, how you always dump all your ideas and things in a document, organize them, and then decide what's the next actual thing I'm working on. And this keeps you also tangible to results, so you're not too much in your brain and head. And that's where we are.
That's awesome. Thank you all so much for joining us, and we appreciate it very much. Our next talk is with Kate Edwards. It's Building Better Works Through Game Culturization, so please stick around and hang out for that. Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
Bye.